This is the Brian Dutcher Report.
People that are interested in Mountain West basketball and San Diego State will get a chance to see us firsthand.
Driven by Sunroad's Kearney Mesa Subaru. It just makes sense. Minutes from anywhere in San Diego.
All right, getting set to talk to the head man. San Diego State head basketball coach Brian Dutcher. Aztecs are 14-4. They are 8-3 in conference play. They win again last night, and they do so by scoring a ton. I would not have predicted this to be the score, and I know yesterday I said, I'm going to struggle catching the end of this one. We'll see how it plays out. I made it into the second half, and then I retired. I felt like they were in perfectly good shape to go ahead and win the game against San Jose State, which was also without its highest scorer, its leading scorer for the night. His name is Richard Washington. Did you watch any of this game last night? Did you see the shot they showed on Fox Sports 1?
Yes.
Of Richard Washington, who is the leading scorer for San Jose State?
I saw that. Saw it in a loop immediately, and then, of course, John Schaefer took it out there. I think, was it Schaefer that put it on the Twitter? Yeah.
What did you see then? Let me just make sure we're talking about the same thing. Because I saw a player who was wearing some sunglasses and some Apple earbuds hanging out, not playing for the night, the leading scorer for San Jose State. And I thought, interesting way to roll. Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Okay, we're talking
Never
about
mind.
something
We're talking
else
about,
then.
of course. What a surprise.
Well, San Diego State was out without its leading scorer, Matt Mitchell, who was a very, very late scratch. And I don't know what the deal is there. As soon as we get the head coach on, we'll ask him about it. But, there's a couple of things here that can be said about San Diego State and this run that it's currently on. And it's easy to look and say, well, who are they playing here? Who are they playing? Is Wyoming any good? And then they miss a couple of games because New Mexico is tapping out, can't play. Then they play San Jose State. Like we talked about this. And they get San Jose State again coming up tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Next week, it'll be at Fresno State. And then to finish off the regular season, it'll be Boise State. So, I know it's easy to look and say, well, they're not really playing anybody that's all that good. But multiple things can be true at once. San Diego State could be a good basketball team, and they could be playing teams that aren't quite so good. So, multiple things. I don't think it takes away from this run at all. Certainly not in terms of the gaudy scoring that we've seen here from the Aztecs. Speaking of, let's say hello to the head man. He's Brian Dutcher, who joins us on Xtra 1360. Good afternoon, Dutch. How are you?
Good, Darren. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. 85-54 last night. You continue to roll. This is 5 straight. You set some sort of record here or some sort of benchmark, winning 5 straight by 25-plus points. Things are going well, I would say.
It's a lot easier to coach when you're up that many. Not as many mistakes being made at the end of the game.
Yeah, yes, to say the very least, 85-54 last night. 14-4 overall, 8-3 in conference play, Dutch. Did you do anything different given the circumstances of last week? We talked to you last week and how you were attempting to fill your time. And sometimes, especially when you're on that kind of run, you maybe want to play and you want to continue to play. But what did you do differently last week that allowed you to pick right up where you left off against whomever it was you played last?
San Jose, yeah. We went a little bit more live against ourselves to the point where, we were questioning whether we were going too hard against each other. Matt Mitchell sprained an ankle, obviously, but it wasn't during live play. It was just in drill work. So, but it seems like whatever we did kept the timing there. We played pretty well, and so we survived another series loss to New Mexico and still were able to maintain concentration and get better as a team.
Yeah, because, I think it had been pointed out, anybody who has access to a schedule can see sometimes when you've had these 7 to 8 day breaks from competition, the next game up, it looks a little different, that maybe a little bit of rust sets in, what have you. I wonder if at all that was part of your preparation last week, just thinking about how that same scenario worked out earlier this season. Yeah,
it's the fine line of, are you working too hard to make sure your timing's there? And we're going to run into that again because after the second San Jose game, I think we have an 8-day layoff until we play Fresno. So we have to continue to find ways to get better as a team, keep our timing where it's at without playing games. And so that is always the challenge, and I thought our kids responded well to it against San Jose last night.
San Jose State, 85-54. Same two teams match up tomorrow night, 8 o'clock at Viejas Arena. You can listen to it here on Xtra 1360. What's the deal with Matt Mitchell? It sounds like this was a very, very late decision. He participated somewhat, from my understanding, in warm-ups. What can you tell us about Matt Mitchell?
Yeah, he sprained his ankle 3 days before the game, and I was kind of hoping that we'd have him available for the game, but we kept treating him, kept checking on it, and he just didn't feel he was able to go. And I understand that. You know, you want to be healthy when you play. And so we gave Matt the night off, and hopefully as rehab continues both today and tomorrow, he'll be ready for tip against San Jose on Wednesday night.
Did he want to play?
I don't think he did, and I didn't encourage him to do so. You know, it's such a long season that I didn't want to play him on a bad ankle where he sprained it, twisted it again, and then we lose him for more time. You know, so I encouraged him to sit, and he was of the mindset that he would sit. And so now we'll check him out today. We'll go pretty light today, Darren. You know, with 1 day between games, we'll just shoot and do a lot of stretching, but we'll get Matt involved in shooting and see how it feels at the end of the day, and hopefully have him available.
Yeah, Dutch, that feels like it's much more a conversation for professional sports, you know, given, and I know you don't want to say anything here that San Jose State's going to hear and go, oh man, they think that they're just going to walk all over us. But, you know, sometimes given the level of competition or opponent, you know, if you needed him, would he have been able to play? I feel like that's much more a conversation for the pros than it is for college. But does who you were playing, did that factor in at all in the decision last night with Matt?
You know, that'd be more of a question for Matt to answer. I'd imagine if it was for a conference title, would he try to tape it up and play with some pain? Yeah, I'd imagine he would. But being the fact that we still have the majority of our season, hopefully the most productive part in front of us, maybe his health is more important than just one game.
Brian Dutcher joining us on Extra 1360. Well, the result was 85 points scored over the 80-point threshold yet again here. This is quite the run the Aztecs are on. And it was really a combination, quite balanced scoring last night, Dutch. When we see stuff like that more times than not, when we're watching games, listening to games, or just scouting through the box scores, and you see some balanced scoring, you see four players, I believe it was, in double digits. Is that by design, or is that the players out there making the decisions on their own and ultimately making the shots that are required to do such things?
You know, sometimes it's just luck. I mean, Terrell Gomez is a good shooter, and Adam Seiko's a good shooter, but the ball just happened to find Adam for more open shots. Now, he didn't shoot a high percentage. And I said after the game, Terrell, you know, sometimes the ball just doesn't find you. As well as you play and as hard as you played, it didn't find your hands today. It ended up in other people's hands. I said that doesn't mean when we play Wednesday, it won't find its way to you. And so that's a message I preached last year, Darren. It's like every night is not going to be your night because we have a lot of good players. But over the course of a season, if you play the right way, the ball will find its way to you where you get to be productive offensively. And I've got a team that accepts that, understands that, and that's why we have the balance we do.
So when you tell the team that you're going to be without Matt, right? And obviously the ankle thing, it was probably much more well-known internally than it was externally. It's not like you go, okay, Jordan, you know what we're going to need from you tonight? Okay, Terrell, you know what we're going to need from you tonight? All right, it doesn't work that way. You know, it's sort of the natural progression and flow of the game. You don't design, a bunch of, different moments here just to spread things out without your leading scorer.
No, I mean, there are plays we run for Matt. Obviously, we don't run for other people because he's got an ability to post up in the low block. You know, he creates off the dribble maybe a little bit more than some of the other guys. And so it's just running plays that suit that lineup that you have in there. And we had a small lineup, and so we were running plays based on a small lineup. When all of a sudden we put Keyshot or we put a Gwook in there, then we run a different set of plays based on the personnel on the floor. And so I thought our guys did a good job just adjusting to what lineup was out there and staying productive.
You mentioned Terrell. He had, I think, 1 for 4 from three-point range last night. The one he hit was from about half court. Do you give them, I mean, they can shoot from wherever they feel comfortable? Because that wasn't, get as close as possible here, tiptoe up against that line. That one was, I don't know, Dutch, what would you say? You probably had a better view of it, 25, 30 feet away?
It was out there, and we encourage Terrell to shoot the ball whenever he wants and shoot it deep because he's got that kind of range. And sometimes, as much as you think you're guarding him, he can raise up and make it from deep. So if Terrell wants to shoot that shot, he feels he's in rhythm, I want him to take it.
Who's got the best range on the club?
probably be interesting between Jordan, Terrell, and maybe Adam shoots it pretty deep too. Those three probably are the three deepest shooters.
And when the ball goes up, you're like, okay, looks like a good shot. Or do you have the proverbial no, okay, yes?
No, those no days are over pretty much. You know, I want them confident. You can't play unless you're confident. It's like any sport you play, golf or whatever. If you don't believe in yourself and that you're going to make that shot, then you shouldn't be taking it. And so usually a player works that out in his own mind. If he's not confident in his shot, he'll turn shots down, even open ones. The guys that believe in their shot and feel really good about it at the time will let it go, and I don't have a problem with that.
Does Terrell practice that, though? Do you guys practice shooting from 30 feet out?
Yeah, Dave works with him. Velasquez, he works with him shooting really deep. You know, so he shoots that deep and deeper at times. And so we want him aggressive. We want him thinking about shooting the ball. I think he's a career 40-some% three-point shooter. So that's a good shot for him, and we encourage him to take it.
How deep are we talking here? I mean Dutch, that one last night, like I said, he could have high-fived the coaches if he were on the other side of the court. So what sort of range are we talking about for him or anybody else?
He can shoot a foot or two beyond that if he has to or he wants to. I don't have a problem with that. He's got great range.
Yeah, well, I guess if you practice that sort of stuff, why not? I mean, if you're not practicing it, that's a totally different story. I think we would all agree. Dutch, how many teams as of today? I know this isn't your primary focus, but you guys find yourself sitting where you're sitting in the standings here with San Jose State tomorrow, a couple against Fresno, a couple against Boise. They talked about this last night on the telecast. How many teams do you currently think from the Mountain West are NCAA tournament teams? Be our bracketologist here today.
I just know at the end of the day they tend to pick Power 5 schools, and so I've seen as many brackets with as many as 4 teams in there. I would guess outside that 2 would be reasonable, and if we're fortunate, we'll get 3.
Okay, so that was pretty political there. They said 4 on the telecast last night. ESPN says 3. They've got Colorado State, one of the first 4 out. Colorado State playing a little later on tonight. Feels about right to you? I mean, that's pretty much what you just said. You see 3 with the Aztecs, Utah State, and Boise State.
Yeah, as we sit here today, but obviously Boise's going to play Utah State. Boise's going to play us. Colorado State's got Nevada. And so if we were to end the season today, yeah, that would probably happen. But all of a sudden, we're each going to beat each other up. That happens in this conference when we play each other, and then the formula changes. So I would say that we're going to probably end up doing damage to each other these last 2 or 3 weeks of the season.
So bracketology not worth paying attention to here on February 9th, in other words.
Well, it's great from a fan standpoint, because it creates readers. Everybody looks at it, and so it's fun. But as far as what it really means, it's going to change a lot over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, I do think that there is one small point here in all of this, Dutch, just last thing, and that would be, that the quality of the conference, as you say, I'm with you. Usually you think that this is all going to go to the power conferences. But at least as of today, there must be something in this conference that seems improved for the people who analyze it. If they're suggesting 3, perhaps as many as 4, are tournament quality as of today. So does it feel that way internally as you start watching and playing different teams in the conference, that things are better?
I hope so. I hope that's the case. I mean, this conference at one time, we had a 9-team league and got 5 teams in the NCAA tournament. So it's not unheard of, but it's just been a trend over the years that the Power 5s are getting more and the non-Power 5s are getting less. Now that can, like any trend, that can change, and the best way to change it is to win games. And so the top of the league has to continue to win games against the bottom of the league, and then we have to probably, to get multiple teams, end up splitting against each other where it's really tight at the top. If one team creates huge separation, wins the league by 4 or 5 games, then who knows what's possible.
Well, Dutch, we appreciate it. The team picked up here without missing a beat, 85-54 last night against San Jose State. Same 2 teams will do it again coming up tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. The game will be heard right here on Xtra 1360. We'll do this again next week, Dutch. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Darren, for having me again.